live button, which is why she is a happier person than I am. Click,
DNF.
and we're live. It is, what is it? It is Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021, 5:01 p.m., and this is the first show of the rest of your lives, as are all of the In Lieu of Fun show, but this one in a particular and very sad way, which is that today is the first day in many a moon that we are doing the show live without Tony Cava. And the reason is not that Tony Cava has a breakthrough infection, which he does not that he is dead in a ditch somewhere, which he is not
Please.
that anything terrible has happened to Tony Cava,
Stop
which it has
jinxing
not,
him.
but that Tony has gone back to work. And In Lieu of Fun does not air at a time that is convenient to work on the West Coast. And so we are starting the show today with a special shout out to Tony Cava, who is in fact a baby penguin, and is going to, I'm sure, listen to this show later. And so we will have Tony, for you, we have an inaudible round of applause from the Greek chorus. Here it is. There it was, a round of applause from the Greek chorus for your devotion to the show over a long period of time. We are not allowed to have fun anymore, and so we create games to serve as proxies for fun, and they get ever closer to fun as we refine them. And the game, Where's the Lie, is one of my favorite proxies for fun that we have come up with. And when I tweeted at a bunch of former In Lieu of Fun guests that they should tell stories on Where's the Lie, the estimable Right Honorable Sarah Bond responded, as I would hope all guests, former guests, would respond, with a promise of a raunchy, bodice-ripping story from antiquity involving the life and deaths of Roman emperors. I have no idea if this story is true or even what it contains, but for those of you who require trigger warnings, I am informed reliably that this story does involve sex, and if that's the sort of thing that troubles you, you should probably watch a different show. We will be back tomorrow, so it's not like we won't be here. We are going to put up the important poll question: is Sarah Bond lying? Yes, no. And as always, you can change your vote at any time. You can also join the conversation if you have questions with which to interrogate Sarah Bond. Note it in the Ask a Question box, and you can be part of the interrogation panel. But there's one thing you cannot do on Where's the Lie. You cannot use Wikipedia. You cannot use Google. You cannot real-time fact check. You've got to do this with your own heart, your own head. Figure out whether Sarah Bond, classicist at the University of Iowa, the greatest classics Twitter, the master of classics Twitter, is bullshitting or not. Sarah, welcome back to In Lieu of Fun. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. Hopefully everybody can hear me pretty well. And I'm just delighted to be here all the way from Iowa City, where I'm back in my office, and we are starting school here in just a few weeks. And all of us are a little nervous, I'm not gonna lie. So this is a nice respite between all of the workshops and syllabus finishing in between. And I'm teaching a class in the fall on slavery in the ancient and modern world. This is going to be a very intense semester, especially since the legislature not so long ago passed a law, like many legislatures across the country, regulating what can be taught in certain classrooms and what can be said. So I think there's a lot of apprehension in terms of the pandemic, or global pomegranate, as Classics Twitter has called it, and also because we're just not really sure what a lot of these CRT laws that have been passed are actually going to mean for those of us teaching in the classroom about social justice. So I'm here absolutely to have fun. I just kind of wanted to put out there as well that there are some anxieties that perhaps we are trying to filter into some fun because of the impending semester and the Augustness of it all,
So I just want to go, I have one question before we start the game, if that's okay with everyone, and you have to lie to us or tell the truth, as the case may be. The first thing is, are you wearing a chainmail necklace?
I am. This,
oh my God!
This comes from a dear medievalist when I was teaching at Marquette, and there is, I think, a lot of strength in wearing chainmail, especially as a lady, because we didn't normally get the opportunity to do it.
I used to make chainmail, and I support all kinds of making of chainmail.
Did you really?
I did, yes, and I still know how to do
tedious.
it. It is. I used to call it my knitting, and and it's actually super relaxing. You do cut up your fingers a little bit, but it's great fun, and it actually goes faster than people think. And I still know how to do it. It's not very hard, and maybe one day on In Lieu of Fun we can have a chainmail making workshop.
Yeah, I have a good friend named Greg Aldrete, who's a professor at UW Green Bay. And
bullshit.
No! He is. He has a whole room in his house just for armor, and he is the world's expert on something called the line of thorax. The line of thorax is what Alexander the Great wore when he was going through the Near Eastern areas of the Persian Empire and going to Ctesiphon and things like this, because it's so incredibly hot. You can't wear a metal cuirass. You need to wear linen. So basically it's like 12 plies of linen on top of each other, and it can stop arrows. He has a whole book.
Kevlar.
Yeah, he has a whole book from Johns Hopkins University Press that he did with his student at UW Green Bay, and they shot arrows into his students, which is like a dream.
That's awesome.
Like, I have a few students.
I've often
like
wanted to shoot students with arrows too. Yeah.
I love my students. Never would do that.
No.
Thank you.
No, it's amazing. Reconstructive archaeology, like making chainmail and making a line of thorax, is incredibly impressive and so important because a lot of the things that we are told about the ancient world need to be stress tested. Like they need to be kind of looked at in a more holistic way. But also it's just super fun and it gets people involved. And they remade rabbit glue for this to put the linen, because the linen has to be glued together in order to make it. So, archaeologists are cool.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, Greg is someone who is very inspirational to me because he writes about, for instance, how riots functioned in the ancient world versus today. But also he brings me to my subject of the story today, because Greg and I have sat many times at bars in Madison and talked about Julius Caesar and talking about how biographies of Julius Caesar, can you hear me? Okay. How biographies of Julius Caesar actually leave out a lot of things that people don't know about him. They don't really underscore, especially the sex life of Julius Caesar. Now, if you fast forward to Julius Caesar's love of cuckolding, which is something that's very well known, that one way to get back at his political persons that he was in competition with within the Senate was to sleep with their wives. And of course, Caesar's wife had to be herself above suspicion, very famously. But when it came to the wives of the people that he was rivals with, he really got his rocks off by sleeping with the wives of people that he was competing with for the consulship, or that were trying to keep him from getting certain magistracies within the Roman Republic. And I really think that this love of cuckolding and this love of sexual competition is something that we can trace all the way back to kind of his early years, because I think it's important to really underscore that there are male and female relationships, and then there are male and male relationships, and female and female relationships in the ancient world. But this was something that was much more embraced by Hellenistic cultures, and within Greek culture especially. But Julius Caesar is born in 100 BCE, and he goes out as a young man, because one of the first things that you have to do within Roman history as part of the cursus honorum, which is to say working up the ladder to get to various magistracies, is you need to have military experience. And so one of the first things you do is serve as a military tribune, or just go attach yourself to a certain legion in a certain area in order to get that military experience. So at the age of about 20 years old, he goes out to this area that was called Asia at the time. We call it Asia Minor. This is the area of modern-day Turkey and Syria. And he attaches himself to a Roman general that is living out there and has a fleet, a naval fleet at Miletus. And he decides that he also is going to learn about the military world by visiting various Hellenistic kings in the area, and he goes to visit an Eastern king, and he actually kind of interns with him as an apprentice. And back at Rome, there were a lot of rumblings about what exactly was happening there, because he was staying a whole lot longer than he had told his family he was actually going to stay. And there were people who were calling him later the Regina of Asia, that is to say the Queen of Asia, because he was staying so long at the court of this Eastern king. And even though Caesar never really addresses it, there is a lot of evidence and implication that he may have had very much a sexual affair with men as well as women in his younger days. And a few years later, he decides that he's going to take kind of a grand tour around Asia. He's about 25 at this time, and he actually gets captured by pirates. The pirates are a very endemic problem, especially in this area of Cilicia. We have the Black Sea area, which was seen as kind of the playground of pirates, and also this area in and around Asia Minor. And Caesar actually gets taken captive by pirates and taken onto the boat. And one thing that we are told by the author Plutarch is that initially the pirates actually want a ransom for about 20 talents. And a talent is probably in the neighborhood of $1.5 million. So multiply that by 20, and that's what they asked Caesar's family, a very old family that is connected to the first families of Rome. And Caesar mocks the pirates for only asking for 20 talents. And he's like, dude, I'm worth at least 50 talents. You have got to ask for a whole lot more because I'm worth it. And you guys don't even know who you've captured here, while I've been on my big foray in and around this area of Asia. And they actually get along really well. Caesar is giving poetic kind of narratives, and they're singing. They have a very jocular relationship. He gets along with his pirate captors in a way that they're having a lot of fun on the boat. But eventually, his family does pay the ransom. Essentially, the lower ransom, I think, is the one that his family, the Iulii, actually end up paying. And Caesar is freed. And Caesar returns back to the fleet at Miletus that he had been attached to now for so many years. And even though he doesn't really have any military power, he gathers everybody together in the area that are Roman soldiers. He gets a boat together along with the help of these Hellenistic kings who are in the area, because they haven't been turned into Roman provinces yet. So they're all ruled by individual rulers. And he goes and finds the pirates in this that are still kind of sitting along the coastline. He finds them and he said, I told you I would crucify you, and you guys laughed at me, and now it's going to happen. And so all of them were arrested and taken to a local prison. And Caesar made good. He actually crucified all of the pirates and got revenge, even though he had kind of been playing games and reciting poetry with them only a few days earlier.
That's the way I deal with my enemies.
You got to keep them close. And so eventually Caesar at this point is about...
It's not personal, it's business thing.
That's
You
right.
hang out when they've captured you, you do your... you sing songs around the campfire because you've got nothing against them personally. But then when it's time to show your constituency what you're made of, that's what crucifixion is for.
That's exactly what Crassus would say only a few years later when he lines everybody up on the Via Appia following the Spartacan Rebellion in 71. So we're talking about only a few years before the Spartacan Rebellion happens, which starts in 73. So crucifixion, big in the late Republic, is what I'm saying. And so Caesar undertakes this. He gets back on his boat and he goes back to Rome. And there are forever rumors that he has had an affair with an Eastern king. There are forever rumors of what happened aboard the pirate ship. And this all adds to the mystique of Julius Caesar and adds to the cachet really he has culturally when he gets back, because he's just the talk of Rome from everybody. And how he uses this is to become the aedile for the city of Rome. That is to say, the person that puts on games becomes extremely popular, even though he goes into major amounts of debt, and really uses a lot of these odysseys and crazy events that happened in his earlier 20s that we all have, and the parties that he attended and the people that he ran into as fodder for dinner parties forever after, and a way of wooing women into the future. So that's the story.
So I have a question about this,
Mm-hmm.
or I have many questions about this. First of all, when the cuckolding of rivals as a form of political humiliation, was this seduction of their wives or rape of their wives? Is the idea that there is... what's the message that he's trying to send about rival? That his wife likes me better than she likes him? Or is it that there's nothing he has that I can't take?
Right. From all of the accounts that we know, this act of cuckolding was about willing coercion. Now, Julius Caesar owned a number of enslaved women, and when he goes to Gaul, I know that he engages in a lot of mass genocide, and so I can't say what that type of sexual violence was and whether it was rape or not. But in terms of the stories that we know about his cuckolding, he absolutely enjoyed just trying to secretly woo his rivals as wives and sleeping with them, and then kind of whispering to his rivals in the Senate, basically like, I fucked your wife. Like, guess what? I fucked your wife.
Super mature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's, I don't think it's, I think some people engage in cuckolding as a kink, like as something that they like to do, like knowledge of their wife. And for Caesar, he's weaponizing it as a political way of saying, like, you may think that you have the upper hand, but I have the upper hand, and I had sex with the thing that you hold as the most pure in this world. And, you know, Roman ideas of marriage are very different than our modern ideas of marriage, but there's still a premium that is put on a woman who has chastity and pudicitia, we call it, somebody who is seen as very chaste and kind, like the Gracchi's mother or something, you know, like the Gracchi's mom is seen as the woman the upstanding woman who only has sex with one man her whole life. So Caesar wants to just take everything from his political rivals, including their subjugation of wives, sexual ability.
And is it the case that, just to finish this line, is the idea that it be public, or that it be something that it be whispered in the Senate, you know, I fucked your wife, or is it the idea that the public should know that, you know, Julius Caesar didn't just subdue Gaul, he didn't just write the Gaul diaries, he also, fucked so-and-so's wife.
Yeah, I think it works on both levels for Caesar, is that internally within the Senate, it's going to work to try and make his rivals insecure, to try and imbue within them this idea that Caesar can get to them on any level. But externally, rumor is something that is really powerful. And we see this in Homer, right? Iris, this idea of rumor is something that is very potent within Greek and the Roman world, and today. I mean, the new Gossip Girl has already launched on HBO, and I think we all know rumor has a potency within Washington, D.C. today as well. But yeah, I think it works to Caesar's advantage for him not to say anything publicly, but to have his proxies and to have those clients, the clientes that he has, going out and saying things like, oh my gosh, can you believe that Caesar slept with this person or that person, or, you know, cuckolded Cato the Younger essentially by sleeping with his mom?
I mean, is it time? Can we ask questions? Okay. Why do you think we wouldn't believe that? They did all kinds of weird stuff. There's like the myth of vomitoriums. There's like I guess right there, that's a myth. That wasn't true, right?
Right, the vomitorium. Right, the vomitorium. I'll send you an article. I wrote about it because what my role in classics is to, like, people say cool things and then I'm like, that's a myth. And then I write about it, and then people read about that, and they go, "Oh, I guess it was a
except about political cuckolding."
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean, but like, I just, I feel like this is something that the leader of one of the greatest and largest, like, republics would have been like. This would be a good way to get stabbed in the back, is basically what I'm also saying. Which reminds me that I have to buy you one of these pencil holders, Sarah Bond. That is these pencil holders, which are these little, yeah. So, but anyways.
I love it.
Yeah. So, but, okay, that was fair. Okay, that's fine. I'm just going to ponder some more.
I will say that vomitoria, just for those who don't know, it's actually a way that areas of the Colosseum were described as vomiting out people. That we don't know of any actual room for vomiting, but Romans did occasionally make themselves purge after large feasts into normally just like little bowls or something, but there's no room within a house that we know of that is explicitly for purging yourself of food.
Well, that's terrible, and I'm sticking with the mythological version because
I like that better.
It was in the facts too good to check department, and I don't appreciate your checking us on them.
I will say that. Have you ever heard of a vomlet?
Oh no,
that's foul.
No,
Kate.
no, I have not. Do I want?
It's also a myth. It's a myth. It's not true. Anyways, go
Okay.
on. Sorry.
Genevieve, do you have questions about this story?
I have one logistical question to start. Did he go to Gaul prior to him going to Asia Minor? Because age is very confusing to me in ancient history.
No, he doesn't go. He doesn't go really until about his mid-30s to Gaul. So this is early on in his life. This is in his raging 20s. This is his Rumspringa, right? He's out there. He's doing things. He's living life. He is Caesar. He comes from a very well-known family, but it was a family that had fallen out of kind of as much power as it used to have, because it was attached to his great uncle Marius, and Marius had fallen out of political favor due to Sulla. So Julius Caesar really wasn't the Caesar that we know of after he comes back from Gaul. He wasn't at that wealth level yet, and he also wasn't at that political potency that he would later have. So the Julii were a well-known family, but in your 20s, it's common for Romans to just go out there and live your life for a little while, and sometimes get captured by pirates, and that just happens.
And can you remind me what kind of pirates these were again? I'm sorry, I'm having brain fart.
Yeah, these are Cilician pirates. So
Okay.
Cilicia is an area to the eastern Mediterranean, and one thing to know about why pirates proliferate is because trade is very common in the ports, in the area near roads, in the areas of the Black Sea. And what happened after the collapse of Alexander the Great's empire is there's just a vacuum of power. And so there's not one military that's ruling over this area, because we have the Seleucids who are imploding. We have a lot of different Hellenistic kingdoms that can't all control the fact that there is no one group of policemen that can actually police the Eastern Mediterranean. So there are all of these pirates that are really going to be proliferating, and that eventually the only person that can get rid of the pirates is Pompey. But Pompey isn't going to be sent in for another 20 years to get rid of the pirates in the East. So the pirates are still a problem at this time, because Pompey has not come in and kicked some pirate ass yet. Yeah.
For which he became Pompey the Great.
I mean, he's called, he wants to add Magnus to his name, and who among us does not want to be Magnus or Magna?
That's right. And in your case,
I don't want
the
that.
Colossus statue is coming. Genevieve.
I'm going to reserve my third, if that's okay.
All right.
Yeah,
so
I'm going to reserve my two final ones for after Daniel. And
Okay, I have one more. It seems to me this story has three elements, and the truth of it could founder on any of the three elements. And I just want to make sure we're identifying the elements of the story correctly. The first is, did Caesar go to Asia Minor in his 20s and have a Rumspringa that may have included various male relationships that were the talk of Rome? The second is, did he get captured by pirates and try to negotiate up his bounty, and then in like a, the equivalent of Biden dealing with the ransomware hackers, I hope, crucify them all? And the third element is, did he use cuckolding as a form of political humiliation of his rivals? Are those the three major, if any of those is false, the story is false, and if all three of them are true, the rest is detail? Is that
That's all of these. I think I'm going with all or nothing, even though I do think that ancient sources obviously can be very hyperbolic. I can be hyperbolic. But I'm just saying that we only have so much to go on, because Caesar's memoir to us, which was written in part by Caesar and by others, is really about Gaul, and then about the war in Egypt, the Bellum Alexandrinum, and then also about the Bellum Africum. So
in the memoir, okay, I'm going to use up my second question. How do we know that he whispered this to other politicians? Did he drop footnotes in the memoir when he mentioned said politician was fucked his wife? Got that one.
We have a lot of later biographies of Caesar. So Suetonius writes the lives of the 12 Caesars, and there are a lot of great translations. I think Mary Beard has a new translation that's coming out soon, from Princeton Press. But there are a lot of free Suetonius translations as well. Suetonius writes the lives of the 12 Caesars. And the first one is Julius Caesar, but we also have Plutarch. He writes a life of Julius Caesar, because in parallel lives, which is Plutarch's writing style, you take a Greek life and you pair it with a Roman life. And together those two lives throw into relief certain morals and values and leadership qualities. And so Plutarch and Suetonius are big people, but then we have contemporaries telling us things like Cicero. We have writings from a lot of people in the late Republic that are mentioning Cicero and his letters, for instance. And Cicero's letters, he talks a lot of smack. Cicero is not somebody who is a fan of Caesar. And remember, he's going to eventually die and be killed by Caesar's adopted son / great nephew, which is Octavian. So Octavian, remember, is pissed off at Cicero for a reason.
Okay, so I'm going to use my third question here. So what we're really testing here is not in absolute terms whether the story is true, but whether some or other ancient sources contain it, or whether you made it up.
Right.
Because, Suetonius isn't exactly the most reliable source in the world, and Cicero could be bullshitting and just talking smack. So the test that we're really applying here is, did Sarah make this up, or is this attested to by some or other ancient source? Is that fair?
That's very fair. I think that we have to all kind of understand about the ancient world that about 96 to 97% of everything from the ancient world is gone. So we have writings and we have archaeology, but that probably only represents a very small piece of the larger iceberg. And so ancient historians are fiction writers. What we do is fill in lacunae. And so historical fiction is really our expertise. And so I don't know if I'm 100% historian, or if I'm more of somebody that just has a vivid imagination that relies on the scaffolding of facts.
All right. Mr. Ducks with Pants, E.G. Phillips, you get 3 questions.
Yes. Well, my primary question seems to have been this topic of discussion already, as far as the reliability of these historical sources, given that a lot of it seems to be propaganda one way or the other, either puffing up one's reputation or doing everything possible to tear somebody down for the historical record. And even things like the Aeneid are all propaganda when it comes down to it. So I also am somewhat, I feel like I have somewhat of a leg up on this, as I am a Latin scholar of old, back in high school. So let's see.
So that all Gaul is divided into 3 parts, check. Correct.
It sounds about right to me.
That's the first line of the Bellum Gallicum, is very famously all Gaul is divided into 3 parts.
In fairness, the last thing I read in Latin was the Latin translation of Winnie the Pooh. I don't think I covered these.
I have it over here. It's called Winnie le Pooh. Yeah.
Yes, it's quite.
So when you say you have a leg up, do you have a strong instinct about whether this story is true or false?
I do feel I have a strong inclination. Um, let's see. I mean, would there be any basis to perhaps a TV series claiming that a warrior princess was among the pirates?
There are definite insinuations, although this is oftentimes like kind of a later addition to this myth of Julius Caesar that surrounds him. That really there are women in the East who rule over Hellenistic kingdoms that are client kings, and there are also women that engage in combat because they are part of royal houses as well. So I think Adrienne Mayer lays this out most directly in her work on the Amazons, is like how to separate Amazonian fact from fiction. And there's a lot of blending, especially within this area of the Mediterranean, of like which ones are Xena warrior princess and which ones are more real queens like Boudica. Right? Like, well, Boudica is not in the East, but, you know, sorry, like of real female monarchs versus just women who are fighting oftentimes as people who are paid mercenaries.
Other questions?
Other questions, and I don't know. In terms of picking apart, I guess the reputational aspects of things, in terms of Caesar's conquests outside Gaul, shall we say? Yeah, who are the most famous among his said conquests that he reportedly cuckolded?
Yeah, excellent. Names. 2,000 years will not erase the infamy. Whom did he cuckold?
I think that I'm gonna have to like pull up the actual names at some point after we chat. But I think the most famous of them is depicted in HBO Rome. If you watch and I have the DVD set over here, and this is Cato the Younger's mother, which is the implication is that he had essentially been sleeping with her in part because she is his political rival's mother. And they had a history that went back longer, but most of our sources tell us that they are sleeping together in part because it really gets to Cato the Younger that this is happening.
Now, all right, what's in it for the mother? Because I understand what Caesar gets out of this arrangement, but why does mom want to humiliate the son by sleeping with his political rival?
Good time.
I think that what you get out of this is just this reputation for virility. I think that there was the same rumor that gets attached to Brutus and his mom as well. So this is something that I will have to get a list of all the women that have been cuckolded, because I don't know. A lot of times it's not the actual names of the women, sadly. It's referred to as like the wife or the daughter or the various women attached to various men, right? So I am happy to put together a more extensive list of people being cuckolded after we chat, but most of these women are only implicated in terms of their position as attached to men.
All right.
We get a lot more power for women and front and center once we have Octavian, I would say, going forward. Even though Julia, who is the daughter of Julius Caesar, is married off to Pompey in order to create a marriage alliance, a lot of the women that we think of as kind of the most potent within ancient Rome are connected to the Julio-Claudians, really from Octavian going forward.
Yeah, the women of the Julio-Claudian dynasty is like an amazing story, but it's later than this. So, Ducks with Pants, you have one more question.
Did we get a number on the total number of pirates that got crucified in the end of this whole story?
Oh, a total number of pirates. That's not actually given to us in the sources. We're told how many days in between actually being, the ransom being paid, and then him going back, and that's 38 days. We have 38 days between actually the ransom being paid, Caesar being released, and then him being like, you know what, fuck you, I'm coming back and I'm going to crucify you. So...
Ben, you're muted.
We are going to keep Ducks with Pants here for the verdicts, but in the meantime, Daniel, you get 3 questions from your native habitat.
So I only have 2 questions. One is, did Julius Caesar ever contract an STD?
Oh, that is tough. I've been asked about STDs many times when talking about sexual relations. We know that they must have existed in the ancient world, but many of our modern markers on the bones and skeletons of individuals tell us if they had an STD. There's no written record, and of course we don't actually have the body of Julius Caesar to do any kind of osteological analysis. I think it would be very difficult to this is what ancient medicinal historians do, is they kind of work backwards as they go back and they try and like reconstruct kind of anything that might have been implied. But I mean, there was nothing I know of says that Julius Caesar had an STD. We know they existed at the time, but that's not the rumor for Julius Caesar, certainly. I think it was much more damning to people in Rome that there was this suggestion that he had slept with a Eastern monarch, because a monarch would be the person that is penetrating you, not the person that is being penetrated. And that's a really big thing for Romans, is like, who is being penetrated and who is the penetrator, because it shows power within the relationship. So Romans aren't as big as Greek society on male relationships. Sadly, they have what we might call today a lot more anti-gay kind of rhetoric, but at the same time, I think the implication here is also that the king himself is so powerful, and Caesar is so young, he's only 20 years old, right? That he is essentially the one being penetrated by the king. And to Romans, that means a power differential by someone who is a non-Roman. That's really humiliating. And that's something that I think was probably used against Julius Caesar in the Senate, and as part of his reputation when he came back.
Daniel, your next question?
So I have a slightly offbeat question, but could you tell your story in reverse chronological order?
Tell it in reverse chronological order. Well, Caesar is actually going to be going out to to face these. Well, hold on. We want to go from the actual end of the story back to 80 when he actually goes. So we have the timeline here from 80 to about 75 here, when he is actually getting captured by the pirates. And so he has crucified the pirates. He has previously actually raised together a fleet and gotten them to be imprisoned. He was actually taken captive by these pirates in 75 because he was out previously in the Eastern Mediterranean to attach himself to a Roman general with a fleet and legions out in this area of Asia Minor. So I've never told a story in reverse going backwards. That's a little confusing, but basically, yeah, we are 20. We are going backwards from about the age of 25 then to 20, between these 5 years where he's just hanging out in modern day Turkey.
All right. Genevieve, you have one more question if memory serves.
I do. Were there similar rumors about Octavian with the Eastern, like an Eastern king type thing, or am I completely misremembering?
No, Octavian, a lot of what surrounds him in terms of sexual promiscuity is that he marries Livia when she's pregnant with her second son. So Octavian, Livia, his wife, is pregnant with Gaius, right? So we have Tiberius, and then we have Gaius, who are the two sons of Livia from her first marriage. That's why Tiberius is his stepson. And a lot of the rumor surrounding Octavian is one that he doesn't fight in battles. He makes Agrippa go into battle for him. That essentially he's a coward that hides behind bushes when Mark Antony wants to go into battle. He's like, I'm good. I'm just going to stay here. And then the other big thing that is implied about Octavian is just that there's something wrong with the fact that he married a woman only a few days or weeks after she divorced her first husband. And he's a Claudian. Her first husband's a Claudian, and Octavian is a Julian, and that's how we get the Julio-Claudians together, is actually because Livia's first husband gives birth to the second Roman emperor after Augustus, which is Tiberius. So yeah, a lot of the rumors are really weird about Livia, but also there are a lot of rumors that surround Livia being the one that is essentially a pimp for Octavian, because at least what Suetonius tells us is that she brings prostitutes and women into the bedroom to take care of Augustus, and that she's not really there for the sex, right? She's there for the power. But yeah, Octavian had a lot of weird. I shouldn't say weird. I don't think it's weird. I think that he had a lot of sexual proclivities that Livia was very happy to take care of. That she was like, cool, is this your fetish? Is this what you enjoy? Then I'm happy to find a courtesan that'll do that because I don't want to.
Thank you.
And
All right.
remember that prostitution is legal. She's not engaging in illegal behavior in any way. So.
All right. I think we have arrived at verdict time. So this is the audience. This is your last chance. Right now we have a first. This is the first time the audience has voted that the storyteller is telling the truth. 63% say that this story is true. If you want to change your vote, this is the last chance. So let's talk to our two discussants. Ducks with Pants, how do you assess this story? Unmute yourself.
Toggle. All right. So I'm familiar with the story about Julius Caesar and the pirates and coming back and getting them. The only thing that I'm having a little trouble with memory-wise is the geographical location of the pirates, since there are a lot of them floating around the Mediterranean.
Yeah, but remember, Cilicia is the hot spot. That's where Pompey gets the Lex Manilia and the Lex Gabinia send Pompey out to Cilician pirates.
Well, given I'm also remembering vaguely the episode of Xena Warrior Princess, where Xena is one of those pirates that captures Julius Caesar. This is perhaps one of the only aspects of that show I remember. I'm going to say it probably was Eastern Mediterranean, just given how they would have tied that all together. So that all sounds right. The rest, as far as the reputational stuff and the cuckolding, I mean, if that's not true, then it's a very convincing melange of the typical things you hear about from that time period, as far as the manipulations and going on behind the scenes. And, whether or not it's true could all be confabulations of various types by our ancient sources, which is why I might not give it credence. But if, unless Sarah is merely drawing from various sources to create, like I said, a convincing melange, I think it all tracks with me as far as what I remember.
All right, Daniel, what do you think?
I don't have a good sense on this one. My suspicion, based on the answer to telling the story in reverse chronological order, is that there's a good deal of falsehood in here. So I would go with there might be some true details, but the contour of the story is made up.
All right, we have split audience discussants. Kate, where are you on this?
I want to go last.
You want to go last? All right. Genevieve, do you want to go next or should I?
Sure. So I'm going to say that I had a bias that this would be true, but I'm going to go against my bias and say it's not true because I just keep thinking about Alexander. And for some reason, I don't know why, I think that there's something in my head that's like, I thought that was Alexander, but I don't know. And so I'm very confused. So I'm going to say no just because I'm totally scrambled.
I mean, Alexander had very close male friends as well, as did Achilles. Mm-hmm. I'm in full support, I just want to say, of all of these men having a lover.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this is something that could equally be true of Caesar, but also of Alexander, right?
Mm-hmm. It could.
All right, so Kate, you want me to go next? All right. I think this story is true. So first of all, there is nothing in it that raised red flags for me. I'm not by any sense expert on this period, but I did not know the stuff about cuckolding, but I think it is interesting that Mr. Phillips purports to have independent knowledge of the story of the pirates. So I think we can take that as a loose corroboration of part of it. I also find the having a youthful affair with some monarchs in Asia Minor totally plausible, and if I had the opportunity to do that as a 20-something, I certainly would have. And so I can't begrudge Julius Caesar his youthful indiscretions of the sort that cause rumors later in life. So there's nothing in the story that bothers me, and all of it seems like the kind of power moves that Julius Caesar we know to engage in. So I would say if this is false, it is a very cleverly put together melange. But I'm going to go the other direction from Genevieve and side with the audience. I think this is a true story, at least as true as the ancient sources will allow you to be. Kate, you get the last word on this.
I wanted to go last because I have guessed correctly so far every time in this game, which is all of 2 times. But I think that this is mostly a lie. I think that this is mostly a lie for a bunch of different reasons, but one of them is because I think that you, as you said, like candidly before, that you are an expert on finding out myths and deciding whether or not they're true. I think that you would have something that was like a myth that seems very believable in some capacity, but is not true in fact, and would be like a perfect thing to bring on this game. But I agree with Ben in Ben's assessment. There is another side in which this is all a very, very I think that you did a very well done lie. Yeah. But there's, and then, yeah. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. But that's my assessment.
Well, I just think everybody is right.
Wait.
What does that mean?
I think it means that what I'm telling you, except for the fact that I couldn't look at my notes because I didn't want you guys to see that I'm like sitting here with all of my notes from today. It's Cato's sister. I messed up, not his mom, but it's his sister. But like everything else is told to us by the ancient sources. Everything else exists within Plutarch especially, and I will post all of this to you guys in a second.
Oh, so
all of
I'm
it's
not right
from
at all.
Suetonius. No, I think you are right, because I think that what we have to really realize, and this is a moment of the philosophy of history, right, is like there is no truth that we can really understand and no litmus test for reality in the ancient world, because we're dependent upon sources from the 2nd century. Suetonius.
You just galaxy brain.
But wait a minute.
entire audience
but
and
wait
the
a
whole
minute.
game.
I specifically clarified this with my question.
I agree.
That this is as true as the ancient sources will allow us to be.
Then, Ben, you are right. Like, I think that everybody is correct in their own way, unless you think that nobody ever wrote this down. But this is part of the mythos of Julius Caesar always. And so all of the sources that I'm citing, except for a couple of from Cicero, who also insinuates a few of these details, are coming from the 2nd century. Plutarch is a Greek historian writing about the life of a man that died 200 years prior. And so I just think that all of these details come from ancient sources. But I can't verify any of it.
Okay, that is awesome.
I can't tell you if it's true or not.
I love this. I love the met. Does this mean I win? Does this
I
mean
don't
my
know.
streak
Does anyone
still...
win? Does anyone win
Ben,
in the
make it a
lies
poll.
of
We're all,
history?
Make it a
we're
poll
all
question.
winners here on In Lieu of Fun.
Make it a poll question. Is my streak still
All
going?
right, yeah. Let's see.
But yeah, let's
won
going through
this
the different ones.
round?
I think is important to.
All right, who won this round? One possibility is everyone. People who said true, because it's in the sources.
It's written.
People who said false, because
Guys,
the
stop
sources.
it in the chat. You can put it in the poll. Stop undermining me in the chat.
I'm not.
my God.
It's not us. It's the chorus.
Oh,
Yeah.
people. Ben,
So hold on.
because he said as
Ben,
true
you can't
as the
specifically write
sources
yourself
allow.
in.
Yes, I can. Or Kate. What's the argument for you, Kate? Because she waffled.
No, because everyone wins.
Oh, so that's everyone
That's-
wins. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
all right.
So you just have to do everyone wins, or the people who won, or the people, the truth or the fake.
Okay. But I'm writing myself in specifically because I said something very particular.
Okay. Sarah, what were you going to say about all of the different parts?
Oh, I'm just going to put a few of them in the chat so you know where to go to find this. But Plutarch is our major source for the pirates. Suetonius tells us about the rumors surrounding a Eastern monarch and the fact that he was called Regina. I think Bibulus, who was a contemporary of Caesar, calls him Regina. And it derives a lot of the same slurs that we see hurled at people today who identify as gay, right? Like you feminize men in order to marginalize them. And so, yeah, that was an actual slur that was thrown at Caesar. And I think this all leads to Kate's point that when he gets stabbed in 44 on the Ides of March, he did a lot of other things to piss people off, but beyond just trying to be king, but beyond just possibly aspiring to be a rex, a king, that Caesar had been engaging in mind games and kind of psychological warfare for a long time. And whether he loved Servilia or not, whether he actually loved any of these women, I really do think that it was a way of politically trying to weaken his opponents. And we can see that, again, people brought up in the chat Cleopatra later on. I think Cleopatra did the same thing out of necessity to stay alive, but also because sex is a very powerful tool. And I'm not here to judge people in the ways that they use it. That's not how I prefer to use it. But I think it's in the ancient world, it was kind of par for the course.
We are going to leave it there. The audience has voted. It looks like a significant 55% majority say the winner is people who said true because it's in the sources, or people who said that Sarah wasn't lying because she was the material is all in the sources. Kate, your streak is over. I believe there is now nobody who has 100% in the spot the lie game. Sarah Bond, you're a great American. It's great to see you back on the show.
That was an awesome story.
It was a fabulous story.
It's
and
hard.
we will be back tomorrow, although I will not be, because I will be driving home from the cabin in the woods. But in lieu of fun, we'll be back tomorrow 22 hours and 58 minutes from now. And until then, Kate?
We're not allowed to have fun anymore, but we are allowed to stab cuckold in the back.
Yeah, and we're allowed to
pencils.
humiliate our political rivals by sleeping with the people closest to them and whispering to them about it. And that
we are
is
allowed to do that, but I
we
wouldn't
are
recommend
allowed
it.
to do that. It's totally legit in our society. We will see